First contact and betrayal. The Galactic Conclave had existed for over 12,000 years. Hundreds of species from across the stars lived in relative harmony, bound by ancient treaties and mutual respect. Then the humans arrived. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the GCS Pathfinder, Earth's first diplomatic vessel designed for interstellar relations. The massive ship represented humanity's greatest achievement, a vessel built not for war, but for peace and exploration. Through the massive viewport, she watched as the swirling lights of the conclave station grew larger, a structure so vast it dwarfed anything humans had ever constructed. "Nervous, Captain?" asked Ambassador Chen Wei, adjusting his formal diplomatic attire for the 5th time in as many minutes. "Wouldn't you be?" Elena replied, running a hand through her short, dark hair. "Humanity spent centuries wondering if we were alone in the universe. Now we're about to meet representatives from over 300 different species. They're just as curious about us as we are about them," Chen said with a reassuring smile. "Our preliminary communications suggest they find us fascinating." Elena nodded, though the word fascinating did little to calm her nerves. The Conclave's advanced teams had studied humanity from afar for decades before making contact, and their initial reports described humans as paradoxical creatures of contradictory impulses, not exactly a ringing endorsement. The Pathfinder docked with surprising gentleness for such a massive vessel. Elena led the delegation through the airlock and into the receiving chamber of the conclave station. The room was filled with alien dignitaries of all shapes and sizes, some humanoid, others decidedly not. At the forefront stood High Chancellor Vrixel, a tall, slender being with iridescent skin and 4 arms. "Captain Vasquez," Ambassador Chen. The translator rendered Vrixel's melodic speech into English. "The Galactic Conclave welcomes humanity to the stars." The formal ceremonies lasted for hours. Speeches were given, treaties proposed, and cultural exchanges arranged. Through it all, Elena noticed something peculiar, the way the alien delegates watched the humans with what seemed like cautious fascination. During a brief recess, Elena found herself standing beside Trillax, a diminutive furry diplomat from a species called the Mithrani. "Your kind moves with such purpose," Trillax observed, large eyes blinking rapidly. "It's unusual." "Unusual how?" Elena asked. "Most species in the conclave evolved as either predator or prey," Trillax explained. "Predators are aggressive but lack social cohesion. Prey species are cooperative but timid. Humans seem to be both. Is that a problem?" "Not a problem. An anomaly. You protect your own fiercely, yet build societies based on cooperation. You can be peaceful scholars one moment and warriors the next." Trillax's whiskers twitched. "It makes some delegates uncomfortable." In the months that followed first contact, humanity established embassy stations throughout conclave space, trade flourished, and scientific exchange accelerated human development by centuries. Earth's nations united under a single governance structure for the first time in history, motivated by the need to present a unified human voice to the galaxy. Yet not all was peaceful in the vast expanse of space. 6 months after first contact, reports reached Earth about a species called the Bravery, the only known predatory species that had developed interstellar travel besides humans. Unlike humanity, which had tempered its predatory instincts with compassion and cooperation, the Vrexer remained pure hunters, viewing other species as resources to be consumed or territories to be conquered. "They're expanding toward the Orion Arm," Admiral Jackson said during an emergency meeting of Earth's Security Council. The holographic display showed Vrexer territory creeping toward human space. 3 conclave worlds have already fallen. "And the conclave response?" asked President Okoa. "Diplomatic protests and economic sanctions." The Admiral's tone made clear what he thought of such measures. "They don't fight back?" Elena asked, now serving as humanity's military liaison to the conclave. "The conclave has no unified military," Ambassador Chen explained. "Most member species have defensive capabilities only. Their evolutionary history as prey species makes them conflict-averse. So they just surrender. Elena couldn't hide her disbelief. They evacuate when possible. When not. Chen didn't need to finish the sentence. Humanity offered military support to the Conclave, but centuries of peace had made them suspicious of warfare in any form. They accepted human advisors but rejected combat forces. For 2 years, humanity watched as the Vrexar advanced. Conclave diplomats insisted negotiations would eventually succeed. Then came the attack on Nova Aurora, humanity's first extrasolar colony. The settlement had been established as a scientific outpost, home to 10,000 researchers and their families. The Vrexar fleet arrived without warning, jamming communications and bombarding defense systems from orbit. Elena was overseeing a training mission near the colony when the distress call came through. By the time the Pathfinder arrived, the colony was in flames. Thousands dead, thousands more taken as slaves or worse. As Elena walked through the ruins, she found Chancellor Vrixel among the Conclave observers, documenting the destruction. "Now do you understand?" Elena asked, her voice tight with controlled rage. "This is what happens when you try to negotiate with predators. Violence only breeds more violence, Captain," Vrixel replied. "The Conclave will increase sanctions and—" "They murdered children," Elena cut in, "while your diplomats were drafting strongly worded condemnations. What would you have us do? Become like them? Like you?" Vrixel's normally melodious voice turned harsh. "No, but sometimes you have to fight back. Humanity's warlike tendencies are precisely why many in the Conclave feared your inclusion." Vrixel gestured at the destruction. "This tragedy is terrible, but it does not justify abandoning peaceful principles." When Elena returned to Earth, she found a changed world. News of the massacre had spread, and humanity's collective grief had hardened into resolve. For the first time since unification, Earth's nations agreed unanimously on a course of action. The defensive pact was signed despite Conclave objections. Human fleets mobilized. Military production facilities that had been dormant for decades roared back to life. The Pathfinder, once a symbol of peaceful exploration, was retrofitted with weapons systems and redesignated as a combat vessel. The Conclave calls this an overreaction. Chen reported during a war council. "They fear will provoke the Vrexar into further aggression." "The Vrexar don't need provocation," Elena replied, now wearing the insignia of Fleet Admiral. "They see restraint as weakness. Tell the Conclave we're not asking permission. We're giving notice." Negotiations with the Vrexar were scheduled at a neutral Conclave station. Elena attended as Earth's military representative, alongside Chen and delegates from a dozen Conclave species. The Vrexar delegation arrived in a massive warship, its hull scarred from countless battles. Supreme Commander Vrax, a towering figure covered in chitinous plates and sharp protrusions, spoke through a translator. The human colony was in territory we had claimed. Their destruction was regrettable but necessary. We are willing to discuss compensation. Compensation. Elena's voice was dangerously quiet. Resources. Technology. Perhaps breeding stock. Vrax's translator couldn't convey emotion, but his body language suggested amusement. Your species has potential. Service to the Vrexar would be preferable to extinction. Chen placed a restraining hand on Elena's arm. Commander Vrax, humanity seeks peaceful resolution, but Nova Aurora was sovereign human territory. We demand immediate withdrawal from all human space and the return of any survivors. Demands. From prey. Vrax made a sound that might have been laughter. Perhaps we misunderstood humanity's place in the galaxy. Allow me to clarify. With a gesture from Vrax, the station shook violently. Alarms blared as atmosphere vented from multiple sections. A small demonstration. Vrax explained calmly. Our ship has targeted non-essential areas of the station. A gesture of restraint. The Conclave delegates panicked, fleeing toward escape pods. Chen remained at Elena's side, his face pale but determined. This is why diplomacy fails with the Vrexer, he said quietly. They respect only strength. Then it's time they met humanity's strength, Elena replied, activating her emergency beacon. Get the conclave delegates to safety, all of them. As Chen hurried to organize an evacuation, Elena approached Vrax. The Vrexer commander towered over her, mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement. A final offer, human. Surrender now, acknowledge Vrexer dominance, and your species may survive as servants. Elena looked up at the massive alien, her expression calm despite the chaos around them. Commander Vrax, I want you to understand something very important about humans. And what would that be? Small prey. We've spent our entire evolutionary history fighting. Against nature, against each other, against extinction itself. We know war better than any species in this galaxy. Elena's voice remained steady. But we chose peace. We chose cooperation. We chose to be better than our instincts. Vrax leaned down, his face inches from hers. And that makes you weak. No, Elena replied. That makes us dangerous. Because when humans fight, we don't do it for territory or resources. We fight for each other. For our children. For our future. She stepped closer. And when you threaten that future, there is nothing in this universe more dangerous than an angry human. Before Vrax could respond, the station shook again, but not from Vrexar weapons. Through the viewport, the darkness of space lit up as the Pathfinder emerged from stealth, weapons charged, and targeting the Vrexar warship. That's just one ship, Elena said softly. We have thousands, and unlike the Conclave, humans remember how to fight. She turned away from the stunned Vrexar commander. You have 6 hours to return all survivors and withdraw from human space. After that, you'll learn exactly why the universe should fear angry humans. As emergency shuttles evacuated the station, Trillax found Elena overseeing the departure. The Conclave never anticipated this, the Mithrani diplomat said, voice trembling. War between interstellar powers. We don't want war, Elena replied. But we won't accept slaughter either. And if the Vrexar don't withdraw. Elena's eyes hardened as she watched the Vrexar warship through the viewport. Then the galaxy will witness something it hasn't seen in 12,000 years, a species that refuses to be prey. When humans fight back. The 6-hour ultimatum expired with no response from the Vrexar. Their warship remained in position, weapons trained on the Conclave station. Inside the Pathfinder's command center, Elena watched the countdown reach 0. All personnel to battle stations, she ordered. Begin Operation Deterrence. Across human space, military vessels that had been lying in stealth dropped their cloaking fields. 50 ships appeared around the Vrexar homeworld. 30 more materialized near their major colonies. Dozens of smaller task forces revealed themselves at strategic points throughout Vrexar territory. We're receiving an incoming transmission from Commander Vrax, Communications Officer Levy reported. On screen, Elena replied. Vrax's chitinous face filled the display, mandibles clicking rapidly in what intelligence suggested was agitation. This deception violates all protocols of engagement. The translator rendered his clicks and hisses. Your ships were not detected by our sensors. That was the point, Elena replied calmly. While you've been conquering worlds too frightened to fight back, humanity has been developing technologies the Conclave never needed. Stealth systems are just the beginning. You dare threaten the Vrexar homeworld. The Conclave will never. The Conclave isn't involved, Elena interrupted. This is between your species and mine. Return our people and withdraw from our territory. Immediately. Vrax's compound eyes seemed to narrow. And if we refuse? Elena nodded to her tactical officer. On every human vessel throughout Vrexar space, precision weapons fired simultaneously. Not at population centers or civilian targets, but at military installations, weapon platforms, command centers, shipyards. The Vrexar warship before them rocked as targeted strikes disabled its weapon systems while leaving life support intact. Similar reports flooded in from across Vrexer territory, surgical strikes that demonstrated power while minimizing casualties. That was a demonstration, Elena said to the stunned Vrexer commander. Next time, we won't be so precise. The screen went dark as Vrax cut the transmission. For 72 hours, silence reigned. Conclave representatives frantically shuttled between human and Vrexer ships, trying to restore negotiations. The galaxy held its breath. On the fourth day, a massive Vrexer fleet emerged from hyperspace near Earth. 500 warships, more than intelligence had known existed. A clear message: the Vrexar would not be intimidated. They're targeting civilian population centers, Strategic Command reported. Weapon signatures indicate planet killer capabilities. Elena had anticipated this response. Activate Aegis Protocol. Around Earth, orbital defense platforms that had been hidden beneath holographic shields revealed themselves. From the lunar surface, massive ion cannons rose from concealed bunkers. And from the dark side of Mars, the real human fleet emerged, not the 50 ships threatening the Vrexer homeworld, but thousands. Open a channel to the Vrexer fleet, Elena ordered. The main screen showed a different Vrexer commander, larger and more heavily armored than Vrax. I am Supreme Warmaster Craxus, the translator rendered. Your species has violated the natural order. The strong consume the weak. This is universal law. Perhaps in your universe, Elena replied. Humanity follows different laws. Then your laws and your species will be erased. No technology can save you from the might of the combined Vrexer battle fleets. Elena's expression remained impassive. Before you attack, Warmaster, you should understand something about humans. We've spent millennia fighting ourselves, developing weapons, then creating defenses against those weapons, then developing better weapons to overcome those defenses, an endless cycle of innovation driven by conflict. Words will not save you. Not words. History. Elena activated a secondary display showing Earth's violent past, world wars, nuclear standoffs, the conflicts that had nearly destroyed humanity before they'd found unity. We nearly annihilated ourselves countless times, but we learned from each brush with extinction. We built fail-safes, contingencies, defenses you cannot imagine. As if on cue, the defense platforms around Earth activated, projecting a shimmering energy field that enveloped the planet. A planetary shield. Craxus sounded genuinely surprised for the first time. Impossible. The energy requirements alone would be beyond any technology the Conclave possesses. Elena finished for him. But humans have always been innovative, especially when our survival depends on it. Throughout the standoff, Conclave observers had been monitoring from a safe distance. High Chancellor Vrixel requested permission to board the Pathfinder, which Elena granted. The four-armed diplomat was accompanied by representatives from 12 major Conclave species, including Trillax. This confrontation threatens the stability of the entire galaxy. Vrixel began without preamble. The Conclave demands immediate de-escalation from both sides. With respect, Chancellor, Elena replied. The Conclave's demands mean little when they can't be enforced. The Vrexar slaughtered 10,000 humans. They've conquered Conclave worlds while you drafted strongly worded objections. And now you propose to do the same. Vrixel's normally melodious voice wavered. To become conquerors yourselves. No. Elena's reply was firm. We propose to do what the Conclave has never been willing to do. Establish boundaries that aggressors cannot cross without consequences. Trillax stepped forward, whiskers twitching nervously. What Admiral Vasquez means, Chancellor, is that humans are offering protection, not just for themselves, but for all Conclave worlds threatened by the Vrexar. Protection through violence. Vrixel sounded skeptical. Protection through strength, Elena corrected. The Vrexar understand only power. We're speaking a language they comprehend. Before Vrixel could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Vrexar fleet is powering weapons, Tactical Officer Raman reported. They're targeting Earth's shield generators. All ships, defensive formation Alpha, Elena ordered. Activate countermeasures but hold fire until fired upon. The Vrexar struck first, thousands of energy beams converging on Earth's defenses. The planetary shield absorbed the initial barrage, but monitoring stations reported shield strength decreasing rapidly. They're testing our capabilities, Elena noted, analyzing the shield for weaknesses. And when they find them? Vrixel asked, the diplomat's composure finally cracking. They won't, Elena replied with quiet confidence. As she spoke, the human fleet moved into position, creating a secondary defensive layer between Earth and the Vrexar Armada. The battle erupted in earnest. Vrexar ships, built for overwhelming force rather than precision, launched wave after wave of attacks. Human vessels responded with targeted strikes, disabling rather than destroying when possible. For 6 hours, space around Earth became a chaotic dance of energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, and maneuvering starships. Throughout the conflict, Elena maintained communication with the Conclave delegation. Watch carefully, she told them. This is why evolution created both predator and prey instincts in humans. We understand both perspectives. The Vrexar pressed their numerical advantage, sacrificing ships to draw out human defenses. But with each wave, they discovered another layer of human preparations. Automated drone fleets, quantum mines, gravity well generators that disrupted Vrexar formations. How long have you been preparing for this? Trillax asked, watching the battle unfold with wide eyes. Since we first looked up at the stars, Elena replied. Humans always believed we weren't alone, and we always prepared for the possibility that what we found might not be friendly. On the 12th hour of battle, Supreme War Master Craxus requested communication. His armor was damaged, his ship visibly crippled on the view screen. Enough. The translator rendered his harsh clicks. This conflict serves neither species. I'm glad you've reached that conclusion, Elena replied. Our terms remain unchanged. Return all humans captured from Nova Aurora. Withdraw from all human territory, and cease all aggression against Conclave worlds. And in exchange, Craxus demanded. In exchange, we don't demonstrate what happens when humans stop fighting defensively and start fighting to win. For several long moments, the Vrexar Warmaster was silent. Finally, he gave what their translators identified as a gesture of reluctant acceptance. The Vrexar acknowledge human strength. We will withdraw as demanded. After the battle, the Conclave called an emergency assembly. Representatives from all member species gathered to address what many called the human question. Some voices called for human expulsion from Conclave space, fearing their military capabilities. Others argued that humanity had done what the Conclave could not. Established boundaries, the Vrexar respected. Elena addressed the assembly, standing tall despite exhaustion from the recent conflict. Humanity doesn't seek to become the galaxy's police force, she assured them. We want what all species want: safety, prosperity, and peace. Then why maintain such military power? A delegate challenged. Because we understand something the Conclave has forgotten, Elena replied. Real peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of justice. It's establishing boundaries that protect the vulnerable and constrain the powerful. In the months that followed, a new equilibrium emerged. The defensive pact expanded, with dozens of Conclave species requesting human protection. The Vrexar, having tested human resolve and found it unyielding, maintained a wary distance. 1 year after the Battle of Earth, Elena stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Nova Aurora colony. Beside her, Trillax gazed at the monument to those lost in the Vrexar attack. The Conclave has existed for 12,000 years, the Mithrani diplomat mused. In 1 year, humanity has changed its fundamental nature. Not change, Elena corrected gently. Reminded. The galaxy forgot that peace requires defenders. Many species still fear humans. Trillax admitted. Your capacity for violence, your technological innovation, your unity of purpose when threatened. They should, Alina said, watching children play in the colony's central plaza, human children alongside the offspring of a dozen alien species. But they should remember something more important. What's that? Elena smiled as she watched the next generation of both humans and aliens building something together, literally constructing a small structure from blocks, helping each other when pieces fell. The universe shudders when humans get angry, she said softly. But it thrives when humans love. And we'll fight to protect what we love, not just ourselves, but everyone under our protection. As the two stood watching the children play, a message arrived from Earth. The conclave had voted on a historic measure, the formation of a unified defense force, with humans providing training and technology. It seems the galaxy is learning from humanity, Trillax observed. And humanity continues to learn from the stars, Elena replied. Predator and prey, strength and compassion, war and peace, balance in all things. Above them, the stars shone in a sky now protected by human determination, a sky where the universe had learned why even gods might fear an angry human, but more importantly, why the cosmos flourished under human compassion.